Hi everyone, Lloyd Moyer here. Today I have this piece of black walnut that's about, well, when it's done it'll be about 10 inches around. And I thought maybe it looked like a plate or a platter. So let's have a go at it. So I'm going to start by mounting this on my screw center. I don't have an actual screw chuck. This is just the live center, or the screw center that comes with my chuck. And I start the lathe and I turn the speed all the way down and then turn it back up again to slowest speed. And then I'm just going to hold this against and let the screw feed in. And get your hands out of the way. Then I turn it off. And I'm going to lock this up and tighten it onto the screw chuck. And there we go. Now, let me just check the camera here. I think that'll do just fine. So, I'm going to start turning this with a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. This is not a like a spindle roughing gouge. It's just a spindle gouge that's been sharpened so that I can turn on a turn the outside of the bowl with. The reasoning for that, the reason I don't use a bowl gouge, which I do sometimes when it's heavier, it was pointed out to me by a great turner named Richard Raffin, who I love to watch his videos as well. But he said he's been turning since the early 70s, and he was a production turner. And he said, use the spindle gouge because it's cheaper. It's a cheaper tool. So you wear it down faster and it's easier to replace. I always thought that was really wise. So now I start this back up again and we'll turn the speed up. This is pretty uneven, so it's not going to be going too fast just yet. But you turn as fast as what you're comfortable with. I'm really just looking to even this out, get some of the bark off. Whew. That is dusty. This has been in my shop for quite a long time. I'm going to turn the vacuum on. Notice how I spin the piece around before I turn it on, after I move the headstock or after I move the tail rest. Yeah, the tool rest. Just do that so that you're sure that your piece isn't going to hit your tool rest when you turn it on. You don't have to take great big cuts. Don't be in a hurry. especially when you're not turning very fast. You're not going to get a really good cut if you're in a hurry. Now, I'm just roughing out, so you don't need a really good cut, but it's always good to practice too. Always take the best cut that you can, especially when it doesn't really matter. That way, when it does really matter, you'll have gotten some practice. Got some weight off of this, so I'm going to turn the speed up. I'm going about 960 right now. That was really dusty. That was all bark. There you go. All right. So, that's where that is. Okay. I'm going to start by getting this round. Pretty close. Little flat spot right there. And then I'm going to need to come down here to get rid of this bark too. Okay. So now we're round. I'm just going to take the bark off. Still have some more to go there. I'm going to use my scraper just to flatten off this surface here and to take some of the bark off there as well. Okay. Use that little bit right there, and that'll come off in a minute. I'm going to flatten this out. This is the sapwood I'm cutting here, which, as the wood really dries out and rots away and things like that, the sapwood is the first thing to deteriorate. So it's often because it's softer than the heart. But this is just fine. So I'm just going to get my pencil here. I'm going to mark here. That's the spot where the bark is. And then over here on the other side, that's where the bark is. So I'm going to cut in between those two pencil lines to get rid of the bark. I'm going to take the speed up just a little bit more here too. I was thinking in terms of a plate or a platter. So to do that, I want a wide base, and then of course a shallow bowl with a flat bottom on the inside. So I'm just going to take this down a little bit more to give myself a little bit more of a base. A little bit too high with the rest here. I think about where I want to be is about there. I think in this instance, what I'm going to do is turn a recess that I will expand the chuck into, rather than turning a foot. That'll be just fine, just like that. So because I'm going to turn a foot, or turn a recess, what I want to know is how wide my chuck is going to get, not how far it compresses. I want to know how wide it's going to get. So I'm just going to mark my I'm going to open my dividers to this widest point. I'm trying to do this on top of my tool rest so you can see what I'm doing. I'm sorry if you can't. But that's all I'm doing is marking. I want to mark the wood with where what the chuck is going to fit into. So that's my widest chuck. Again, you want to scratch the wood with the left-hand side and line it up with the right-hand side without touching the right-hand side to the wood. And then I'm just going to turn this recess. You should be able to grip that recess in a relatively small amount. Doesn't have to be real deep. But getting this right, pardon me, getting this right um, makes everything easier. So take your time with it and get it right. Now, I'm also going to check to make sure I'm not crazy here. Yep, that'll fit. I'm going to get my tool that makes a little dovetail. This is just a scraper that's been cut at an angle to make a dovetailed recess. Good. Now I'm just going to I'm going to take a shearing cut up here, up the side. And then I'm going to go over to the front side and I'm just going to even out that surface so that I know what I'm working with. The face surface. You see here how it's very rough from the chainsaw. So I just want to see what it is I'm actually going to be working with here. That's all. I also, it's a little rough, still a rough spot there. I also like to have when I'm making a plate like this. This is a serving platter or an eating plate. I like to have something that I can grab onto on the underside here. Just not like you need a handle, but just some little bit of interest to locate your fingers on when you pick the piece up. So whether it's a little bead or a groove, in this case it's going to be a groove that makes the rim look a little bit like a bead, I guess. And then I'm just going to round this off just a little bit. I think, yeah, I think that's just how I want it. Little wormhole there. That's not going to get in the way of anything. I think I'm going to leave that in there. There's a wonderful word that I found, um, sprezzatura, which the way it was first described to me was finding beauty in imperfection. So I don't mind having a little bit of an imperfection as long as it's not truly a blemish. But an imperfection in the wood, it reminds you that it's been handmade and that it was a natural occurrence. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If it's truly a blemish, um, it's not a good thing. And it's not always easy to find the difference between those two things. It comes with practice, so keep practicing. But don't let some sort of minor imperfection in the wood make the piece firewood. That's all and don't necessarily try and hide it, but revel in it. I want this rim to be a little bit rounded. A little rough spot right there. That's 120, and now I'm going to go to 180 grit. I'm gonna go to 180 grit, and then I'll check it, make sure that everything looks okay. And if it's not, then I just have to go back to the 120 again. Don't be afraid to use the rougher grits. If you need 80 grit, use 80 grit. Use 100 grit. Um, don't be ashamed or afraid. Like, you use what you need to use. Um, nobody sees what grit you use unless you're doing what I'm doing. Um, just get it right and don't skip. So if you go back to 80, you go to 80, then to 100, 120, 150, 180. Don't go back to 80 and then skip up to 180. You'll never get rid of those scratches. I'm looking at it, it's very center. Seems to be okay there. A little bit. I'm getting a little bit of a hump in the very middle, which happens sometimes when you're flat like this, because you're sanding. The wood is moving faster out here, so you're sanding more off than you are in the very middle. One way to get rid of that is get a sanding block. But can also just turn it some more. Okay. Now going to 220. Place where I get my sandpaper was out of my 240 grit cloth backed paper, so I had to get a substitute at the hardware store. And this is a synthetic 220 grit. Not working badly though. And then we'll do 320. And if you like to go to 800 or 1,000 or 1,500, or you'll like to leave it at 220 or 180, again, like, make it your own, you know? Do it however you want to do it. I'm sharing with you my process. I'm not saying it's the right way or the best way. It's just what works for me. Try your own way. Figure it out. Try the way I do it. Watch other people. Try the way they do it. See what you like. I'm going to reverse this, though, and go back a grit. Sometimes when you're sanding all in one direction, you know, you're pushing the grain fibers down and you're making them nice and smooth, but only in that one direction. Turn it around. You know, if your lathe has a reverse direction, reverse it and, you know, do it some more. I'm gonna jump back into that recess. Just touch that up just a little bit to make sure I didn't round it over. That helps to put the lathe back in the forward direction. Though. Works so much better. There we go. I am just going to run over that with 320 again. I think that'll be okay. For starters here, I'm just going to go over this with some oil. This is walnut oil, just pure walnut oil, no wax or anything in it. I'm just going to go over this with that. Not going to over oil it. The only thing that happens if you over oil it is when you turn the lathe on, you get sprayed. And your lathe bed gets sprayed. So be sure and keep your lathe bed clean or else it will get sticky or gunky or whatever. You can also put something down over top of your lathe bed to protect it from spray and blowback and things like that. Which I do sometimes. I have a piece of wood that I just put down if I'm going to be making a mess. It's pretty much the entire craft of wood turning is making a mess. Okay. There's a bit of wax in this sock here also, so yeah. That's that side done. Let's see if I can get this off of the screw chuck. Ugh, it's the wrong like bull. Two bull maybe. Is what my uncle always used to say. going to be putting this, putting some wax on this in a little bit when I'm done the inside anyway. All right. Needs to come in a little bit. Go. So usually I don't like to do the recess because it means that it's less that you can hollow when you're hollowing the piece out. But you saw we left such a small recess in there. It's not going to get in the way of anything. And I think what you lose in depth, you make up for in the broad base that you're able to have. So maybe I'll move the camera and we'll look at it from a different angle. Not a hugely different angle here, but I did move the camera. I think this is a better angle to see hollowing out. So I'm going to hollow out with my, I believe this is a 3/8 inch bowl gouge. And I'm a little bit above center. I'm going to take it down just a touch. And I am spinning at about 1185. Ring. Always a good idea to take your rings off. I'm not using my depth drill today because I'm not going to be going a whole lot deeper than the hole that I drilled for the screw cup. I'm going to check to see what depth about what depth I'm getting to though. So, I have a little bit more room than that, so we'll be fine. You saw the face of this was all it's still the chainsaw edge, so I'm also just cleaning that up. Tool rest is a little loose. Have to start the cut all the way up on its side so that the edge doesn't catch and push back. And once you're in the cut, then you can open the, turn the tool slightly counterclockwise until you're taking the bite that you want to cut. A little bit too much there. Going in a bit now. The more you do this, the more you can hear the thickness that you're turning. You hear the higher pitch, then you start to get thin. So it's a good warning. This is a pretty simple sorry, brief interruption there. No biggie. I was saying this is a pretty simple piece, but simple doesn't mean necessarily easy, and certainly doesn't mean bad. This is meant to be practical. That sounds thin too. That is thin. That is thin. I'm going to check the thickness of this with my little calipers that actually fit in between the chuck opening. That is thin. It's okay. It's not too thin. We're still fine, but I don't want to go any deeper than that. I was thinking of this as like a valet tray. If I don't go through the bottom of it. I'm just trying to do this kind of carefully right now. Fine. There's a little hump in the middle there, so I'm going to have to flatten that out. When you're scraping, you want to be a little bit above center so that you can angle the tool downwards. You just want to make sure that this is flat in the middle here, because with a tray, like that's the whole thing, is the flatness of the bottom, and I can feel that I'm still high in the middle here. A little high spot right there. Again, you gotta feel it. And when I say it's not necessarily easy, simple is not necessarily easy. This is, when you're trying to do a flat surface, you're doing it freehand. So you're really trying to do a, it's like trying to freehand draw a straight line. So I'm using a scraper here, or a skew chisel here, but on its side, so it's almost like a scraper. And I'm going to be cutting with the side of the bevel here, just to clean up this little edge, so that I'm leaving a sharp angle here in between, where the bottom meets the wall. But I still also want it to be clean. I'm having trouble seeing. back to the scraper here. Yeah, that's what I need. Still have a little line right there. There. And that, as far as turning, that's it for that. I'm going to get it sanded. Starting with 120 grit. My plate and trays, because they're one of a kind, it's hard to do, like eating plates if you don't do a whole set of them. I don't do a whole lot of sets. It's a fun challenge, and I've done it before, and I highly recommend trying it. But I don't do it a lot because I don't get get enough timber to do it like that. But trays like this, they're a good exercise because they're not complicated, but they still take sort of careful turning to get this flat bottom and to get the intersection of the bottom and the side just right. Plus, we don't all get really big, thick blanks. Sometimes you get a thin blank and you want to be able to do something. 180 here. I'm going to do the 220. This is really probably too small to be much of a serving tray. I suppose you could use it as an eating plate, but like I said, I don't think that's really practical anymore. But as a valet tray or a spot to throw your keys at the end of the day, I think it's great for that. I use one like this for all of my stuff, for my wallet and my keys, and my earbuds, and all of that I have sitting on the kitchen counter. You can just use you can use anything for it, but hell, this is what I do. So I'm going to use this. Reverse this and just give it one more go in the reverse direction. That's pretty thin. Like I said, I don't do a whole lot of really thin stuff. It's nerve-wracking for one thing. But I don't see the practicality in something that is super thin because it doesn't survive. This is wood, and I want you to use it. So if it's really fragile and delicate, you're either not going to use it or you're gonna break it. And I don't want either one of those things to happen. So I tend to make things a little bit, not a lot thicker, but a little thicker, a little hefty. I think you should should know how to turn thin, and you should try and do it just for the practice and for the experience. Um, but and if you like to do that, if you like the achievement of making something really thin, there's a local turner by me here that is really proud of how thin he makes things, and he's excellent at it. I don't diminish that. It's just not for me. I think I'm going to turn the vacuum off here. I'm going to put some beeswax in and out here. This is, I don't remember if I said when I was doing the outside, I use mineral oil, or not mineral oil, I use walnut oil as my preferred finish. And this is a combination of walnut oil with beeswax, which gives you a little bit of a, that waxy sheen, along with the great durability of the walnut oil. And I think I've probably mentioned before in other videos also, if you're going to sell your work, walnut oil is great because people love the smell. Even if it's not walnut, they smell it and it smells like wood. You can't get that with tongue oil. But walnut oil always smells like wood. It's just great. All right. That looks like we got away with making a thin piece without messing it up. Take it off of here and see how we did. That's not nearly as thin as I thought it was. If it's really thin, sometimes you hold it up to the light and you can see through it, and it's not nearly that thin. It's really just right. So there you go. That one was sort of quick and simple.